the true story of wealth. Who managed to stay standing? Throughout history, everyone has chased wealth, but only a few ever discovered the secret to keeping it. Behind the glitter of every golden age lies a quiet truth. Wealth was never safe. Not in the glory days of empires, not in the chaos of revolutions, not even in the so-called stable years between wars. From the palaces of Babylon to the villas of Rome, the rich always had a different playbook. They knew one thing for certain. Money was never just money. Gold, grain, land deeds, it didn't matter. Each was a tool of power, a kind of insurance, a lever, a survival mechanism. Ordinary people trusted the system without question. The elites, on the other hand, had already learned how to slip past it. The real question was never how they became rich, but how they managed to stay that way. The secret begins with understanding how the earliest wealthy people reacted to crisis. Because once upon a time, to be rich didn't mean having a fat bank account. It meant controlling resources that no one else could touch. Let's rewind to 4000 BCE, the city-states of Mesopotamia. In places like Ur and Lagash, kings and merchants didn't keep their fortunes in vaults. They invested them in temple loans, land leases, and vast trade networks stretching across deserts and rivers. The Sumerian kings protected their wealth by intertwining it with religion. Temples weren't just places of worship. They were the central banks of the ancient world. To seize a temple's treasure was to insult the gods themselves. That made elite wealth politically untouchable. No one dared to lay a hand on it. The same strategy appeared in ancient Egypt. Pharaohs and nobles stored their riches not as coins, but in tangible assets. The fertile lands of the Nile, granaries full of grain, and the gold mines of Nubia. These were so vital to the kingdom that confiscating them would mean collapsing the state itself. Wealthy Egyptians often donated their estates to temples, a clever way to protect them from seizure. And in those days, one form of wealth stood above all: land. Land produced food, and food was the world's first true currency. Fast forward to the 5th century BCE, classical Greece. Here, the wealthy learned that mobility was the key to protection. Athenian, Corinthian, and Rhodian merchants never kept their fortunes in one place. They had ships, accounts, and partnerships across many cities. If Athens fell, you could sail to Rhodes and start again, because part of your wealth was always somewhere else. Rome took that idea to the next level. Roman elites, senators, generals, bankers, understood that power was fickle. One day Caesar rewarded you, the next he could seize everything. So they diversified. They bought land, invested in tax collection rights, and lent money to foreign kings, often backed by the Roman army. Some hid their gold, jewels, and art in secret vaults. In modern terms, they didn't just diversify their portfolios, they diversified their countries. When Rome collapsed, the imperial treasury was empty, but its richest families still owned land, food, and private armies. The state had vanished. Their wealth hadn't. In the Middle Ages, the game changed once again. Europe's rich found a new sanctuary, the church. When a king needed funds for war, he could seize his rival's assets, but he couldn't touch property donated to the church. So wealthy families entrusted their estates to monasteries. Legally, it was a donation. In reality, a secret vault. Banking dynasties like the Medicis perfected the bill of exchange system. Gold no longer needed to travel. Money could move invisibly across Europe. If one city fell, their fortune survived elsewhere. Meanwhile, in the Islamic world, another innovation emerged: hawala. From Baghdad to Cairo, merchants transferred wealth through trust networks instead of physical money. It relied on personal honor and family reputation, which meant governments couldn't seize it. Wealthy merchants also invested in caravans, real estate, and long-term monopolies to secure their income. The rule was always the same: spread the risk, make your assets invisible, and never leave your fortune at the mercy of one ruler. By the 16th to 18th centuries, the great merchants of Venice, Amsterdam, and London found yet another way. Instead of fighting the state, they partnered with it. The crown needs warships? We'll fund them, in exchange for tax exemptions. Even if the kingdom collapsed, their fortunes remained safe. Wealth had become a political armor. All these stories teach one thing: wealth survives through control and distance. Control means owning assets that keep generating income: land, resources, trade routes. Distance means spreading those assets across systems and borders so no single crisis can wipe them all out. The elites of the ancient world knew something most people still don't. Trusting the system completely is the greatest financial risk of all, and that lesson matters now more than ever. Today, a single click can freeze your bank account. Currencies collapse overnight. Stock markets can lose a quarter of their value in a week. Inflation quietly eats away your savings without you noticing. The elites of the past never left their entire fortune in the hands of the state. Today, the tools are different. International diversification, precious metals, alternative assets. But the principle is exactly the same. History doesn't repeat itself, but it loves to recycle the same traps. People always believe stability will last forever until the day they realize it doesn't. The wealthy of the past didn't wait for disaster. They prepared for it. They spread their risk, and they protected what they built. Because true financial freedom isn't just having money, it's making sure your money survives the storm. And if this story gave you a new way to see wealth, subscribe. Because history already holds the answers. I'm just here to show you where to look.